Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to a very special episode of the How to Retire from NASCAR DFS live preview show. I am your host, Jason Hamlet, and joining me tonight on this special Easter edition is your personal NASCAR DFS savior who is prepped to perform an Easter resurrection miracle on your NASCAR DFS season from the Daily Fan Racing. Welcome, my buddy, Ryan Larkin.
You said you had a good intro set up. I didn't realize it was going to be so blasphemous. I'm very, very excited based off of that intro. Thank you, Jason.
How you doing, man? First off, we got to set the record straight here, right? I am retired, right? It is Easter Eve, 9 o'clock, and we're sitting here talking about Richmond. How the hell did we get here?
Well, how we got here is we are whores for views and subscriptions to the YouTube channel. So I sat there and said, hey, it's a night race at Richmond that gives us more time to get more views. So let's do a show. And you're like, okay, I'm not really retired. This is behind the scenes, by the way. I'm not really retired. I still do content all the time. And then here we are.
Yeah, that is right. This is a little different than our normal way we do these shows, right? We typically are coming to you live on race day. This is actually night before race day. We are looking at a 7 p.m. start time Easter Eve. So, yeah, doing things a little bit different. Larkin swears we're going to get some views. I don't think so. It's Easter. I think you guys probably have things a lot better to do than watch us talk about NASCAR at Easter. But prove me wrong while you're here and you found the channel and Ryan's going to spit out some goodness for Richmond. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button right now. Go ahead, do it while you're here so you don't miss an episode the rest of the season. We are getting close to 500 subscribers. So please subscribe, tell a buddy, share with a friend, help push us to that 500 mark. All right, so let's get into things. I'm going to ask the serious questions to start. Which is it, Larkin? Is it Reese eggs or Cadbury eggs? What's the way to go in Easter?
Oh, no.
What? You don't have an opinion?
I don't like chocolate.
Oh, man, that's terrible.
I guess Reese's eggs. I mean, we all ate Reese's eggs growing up, and peanut butter is good. But, yeah, I don't even know what the other one you asked is. Is that bad?
You don't know what a Cadbury cream egg is? You don't remember that from those commercials from our childhood of the little white rabbit that was...
Our childhood? How fucking old do you think I am?
How old are you? You're, what, 10 years younger than me, maybe?
30. I'm right there, yeah.
Yeah. You remember the
I really don't. I'm not a candy person. Like, I'm not a chocolate person. So, no, I really, really don't. I'm sorry.
Well,
all right. Go
that
Reese's.
Was a terrible segment. So
yeah.
Let's talk about NASCAR. Let's talk about racing.
Let's talk NASCAR. I brought my lunch pail for the show. So it's got goodies in here. Let's open it up. Oh, ice is falling out. And we got Reddicks. We're stacking Reddicks today. Not to be confused with any other shows, not anything like that. But I love Tyler Reddick. Not on this DFS slate, of course, but I love Tyler Reddick, and I love Tyler Reddick after big wins. So I am going to enjoy the show by drinking it a little bit.
Larkin has been into the Easter wine this evening, it seems like. So we're going to have some fun this evening. Let's get back on track. Let's talk about the track. Let's talk about the track. We are going to be at Richmond. So why don't you tell us what we need to know about Richmond from a DFS standpoint?
All right. Richmond. It is a 3/4 of a mile short track. I love Richmond as a track. I literally began my Xfinity write-up essentially talking about how much I love this track and how much I love these slates here at Richmond, basically because they're super predictable. Richmond is an extremely low variance track, knock on wood. It typically is a very low variance track because the drivers are racing the track itself, and they're racing the track itself because of the high tire wear that's associated with this track. So Richmond has a very abrasive surface. It's a surface that has existed for about 20 years now. God, I'm trying to remember when it was repaid. I feel like it was 2002, so it's probably like 22 years since this surface was redone. So it's aged really well, and it creates a lot of tire fall off and creates really good racing. If you're into no cautions and no carnage and cars running around in circles nonstop. I know Jason's not into that. The train monkeys aren't into that. But personally, I like these type of races. And when you get into these races, much like with the Xfinity race, as long as there's no awkwardly timed cautions, the race kind of runs pretty smoothly. And then also it's a super predictable track because certain drivers just run good here, right? Like Harvick, Hamlin, those type guys always run good here. It doesn't really matter the circumstances. I wrote up Brad Keselowski for my article, and we'll touch on him, I'm sure, later. But the dude's hasn't finished like I got to find the stat. I think he hasn't finished worse than 17th since 2013. And he has like 16 top 11 finishes in that span. So it's this consistency that we can lean into when building lineups, and that's why I'm really a big fan of it. There's not a lot of beating and banging for the most part here. It's really a pretty clean race. The only caveat I'll say is that a late caution can screw up anything. We saw that in this race last year where Josh Berry took like a 20th place car and finished second simply through pit strategy. He ran super long, caution fell, and he lucked into a good finish. That can happen, and that's always a possibility. And then the other side of the unpredictable aspect is the pit strategy. Someone can short pit, someone can go long, and that can skew fast laps. That can skew dominator points depending on how it is. Like Denny Hamlin notoriously goes long here. He loves running long, whereas Ricky Stenhouse often will short pit this and then, two stop it. He was actually the originator of the two stop, which we'll see a bunch, in this race. So those are really the two main ways it gets weird. But for the most part, it's really 400 laps, focus on your dominators. You want to get 3 of them, maybe 4, depending on how the race goes. And you want to build good, good top end lineups and round it out with solid plays in the middle. So from a lineup construction standpoint, I love this race. It just all comes down to, do we get shenanigans or not?
Yeah. I hear everything you're saying, man, and I agree with everything you're saying from a point of like gambling and betting and DFS. Yeah, all those things make why, like this is a good track for that. But from a fan standpoint, it's just not a track that I have fun watching. It just doesn't seem like a lot happens. The cars get spread out. You don't see it's a track where, like you said, it's predictable. The guys who are good there are good there. The cars who are fast are going to get to the fast. So those cars are going to get to the front very quickly, and they're going to likely stay there, right? And it's just going to be a long 400-mile race, and you're just going to see the same guys up there, and it's just not very fun. But like you said, from a DFS standpoint, it's fun to play because there's very little of that word variance, right? We don't have too many races like this in NASCAR where we can kind of really stack things. So when it comes to Richmond, is this a race that you're more likely to go like just really in on a guy like 100%? You're just not scared to do it at a track like Richmond?
I'm still scared to do it, and mainly because there's there's no one to really do that on this slate in particular. But you're so dependent on dominators that if you go all in on, say, like Denny Hamlin and he doesn't lead, then you're screwed. If you go all in, say you are trying to play a mid-range driver and you go all in on Chase Briscoe because he starts 32nd and he just runs 22nd, you aren't hitting the optimal, right? So there's really nowhere on the slate where I feel comfortable going super heavy on anyone. And a lot of that's predicated because most of my lineups are going to gravitate towards dominators, right? So that's the first aspect. And last race here, we saw four dominators lead 80 plus laps. The race before that, we saw 3 guys lead 70 plus laps, and then another guy led a decent chunk as well. So it's not just one guy dominating, at least not with the next gen car in this era. It's typically 2 or 3 guys leading a bunch of laps. Fast laps are spread out. So it's not as simple as being like, okay, Kyle Larson has the best car. He sits on the pole. He's going to go lead a bunch. We should see 2-3 guys lead at any point. And if you're 100% on a guy, you may completely miss. On the Kyle Larson aspect, he sat on the pole here twice with Hendrick Motorsports and led a total of 19 laps in those 2 races. It's not a lock that anyone's going to lead long-term. Short run speed does not equate to 80-lap runs at Richmond and how those things are going to end up. So it's very tricky to just look at a short practice session, to look at qualifying and be like, yes, that's the guy, because you really need to know what they're going to be 40 laps into a run, not 10 or 15. So it's tricky. That's why you lean so much into the track history here. Like, this is the biggest track history track in the sport or in NASCAR, because Hamlin, Logano, Keselowski, all your elite veterans that have good track records here, they always deliver here. It's not of like, oh man, it's a 50 or 60% success rate. It's a 90% success rate. So you're extremely likely to see those guys at the front scoring top 10 finishes and getting those results simply because of the way this race plays out and the type of track and type of racing. So for me, I'm never going to be super heavy on anyone. I will be heavier on guys I trust if the salary dictates it, or the Dominator potential, if the DFS potential dictates it. But you definitely don't want to get overexposed, because if you go too heavy on Kyle Larson and he doesn't dominate, or too heavy on Hamlin doesn't dominate, you've really lost, you've lost the slate before it even starts.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that about like when you're looking to decide. I feel like I've been the one drinking today.
Yeah.
We're talking about Kyle Larson. You mentioned about him being fast in practice, right? And my next question is going to be, what are we looking for when we're deciding who we're going to play today? And you mentioned about track history. Yeah, is that where you're going to be really focusing more on track history than practice speeds? Because like when you looked at practice speeds, from today, Group A is like way different than Group B. Like, is there really even anything we can even pull from that practice session, or are we just really going to rely on that track history and just what the data from the past has shown us?
Yeah, so I don't. So I fantasy race. I don't think I've ever talked to him, but every weekend for the most part, he posts that chart, and I do. It usually shows up and I look at it where it's Group A versus Group B, and he highlights by color who it is. And it's actually a really fun tool. I don't know if it really matters or not. And when you see all of Group A up there at the top, right, and like the top 10 is all blue and they're all Group A drivers, and you're like, wow, they had a huge advantage. And then you go in the qualifying and it's still the same guys up there. Like, it's still Larson. It's still like all the guys from Group A all qualified really well. It's not like Group B guys still like magically showed up. So I'm not sure. Like, it's hard for me to be too against the practice speed, because it may actually just be true. Like, I've caught myself saying, yeah, Group A had an advantage, so I don't really want to follow the practice speeds. But then in the race, the practice speeds were true, and those were still just the fastest cars, if that makes sense.
So, yeah, but I mean, it's also like the practice. I'm sorry, but wasn't practice like at 11 a.m. this morning, and now we're gonna have a night race? Like, doesn't that also kind of also like I don't know, like to me, Richmond is such, like you said, a track history race.
It's probably the same.
Do we care? Like, do you care that like?
I don't care about practice. I know
like
Denny Hamlin
or
Denny
like
Hamlin sucked. Yeah. Like all the Gibbs cars were like 18th, 19th, and 21st. Do we think Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin are going to be bad in this race? No. So it's so easy to just for me to dismiss practice speeds to an extent. But what is not easy to dismiss is a trend of like 300 cars starting first, second and fourth. Certain trends I don't want to ignore, but like Ross Chastain was last in practice. He had the worst practice speeds, but he's third on the grid. And like, you got to take all that stuff into account. I mean, there's obviously some practice speeds that just aren't going to look as good as they should and whatnot. I'm generally not going to be as impacted by practice speeds in general, because a lap average, you don't know if a driver literally takes 2 laps off just riding around and then resets and then goes, and that kills his lap average time and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. I do get like this when I drink. Sorry.
It's okay, man. We love it. We love it.
I don't really factor too much into it. We can move on. Sorry.
All right. Well, let's get into the driver by driver breakdown. Let's talk about the plays. Who are the guys we're going to want to play? Who are going to be those dominators? Where are we going to get that position differential? Let's start with a little disclaimer. Of course, guys, if I forget to ask about a driver, you want to know specific about somebody, please ask it there in the comments. We're following along here. Ryan will get to all your questions and make sure you all have get them all answered for Easter here. Let's see, anything here? Chastain nothing there. So let's talk about dominators. Larkin, who right now are the guys that when you look for dominators? You mentioned at the top of the show that we're probably going to likely to be playing 3 of those per lineup. So we need to line up a lineup. So you need to give us a big list of them. Who are the favorites today?
So the favorites to dominate, we're going to start with Kyle Larson. He's obviously starting on pole. The HMS guys are pretty strong in qualifying, at least on single lap speed. The fact that Larson and Elliott start on the front row makes me think that at least one of them could lead a chunk early, but then Ross Chastain and Bowman right there as well. Larson's had 2 good wins here. He's had some good performances, but I don't know. I'm leery of him, leading a bunch because we had those 2 results where he qualified on the pole and he only led 19 laps combined, right? That is a big sticking point for me mentally. And then I know like Denny Hamlin has led laps from starting 13th. He has led laps from starting deeper in the field. Guys like Truex, who I think he started 8th, and I wish I had the stats up
The
right.
pole sitter hasn't been optimal here since 2021. Spring
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Like that's not the qualifying speed doesn't necessarily equate to long run good race pace. So I'm a little leery of being like super heavy on anyone to the front. But if Larson gets the lead and just leads the first 80 laps, then it could be a perfectly fine play. I know like William Byron in one of those races got involved in a wreck late when he dominated and he was going to be optimal late. It's not that guys starting up front or starting on the pole can't lead. It's just will that Chevy group be able to do it?
It's a long race, right?
Yeah, and so there's really there's 2 mindsets. You can play some of those guys starting towards front, like Elliott, like Larson, like Chastain, and Bowman's a really sneaky play. Bowman's one here in the past. He's really good at high tire wear tracks. Like that could be a sneaky contrarian dominator, right? If he led 50, 60 laps, I don't think I'd be surprised. I don't know if anyone else would be. But then you have your core group of guys like Hamlin, like Truex, that I think are the most likely to do it long term. And so it's kind of balancing the fact that there's a group of probably 10 guys that are most likely to do it, and 3 or 4 of them are going to do it. And I say most likely because last year nobody had Keselowski and Buescher on their Dominator list. Even Reddick, who qualified really well and led a bunch, he wasn't on the true Dominator list because Reddick sucks here. Like the fact that Reddick dominated here last year was a bit of a surprise, even though he qualified well, because he is not fundamentally good at Richmond. So you just don't know. And if a guy's good at a certain segment and gets the lead, he could lead 60, 70, 80 laps and be a factor on the slate. So you want to kind of spread out that ownership. You want to factor in a lot of guys. Like Bubba Wallace was really strong early in that race. He starts 5th. He could be a contender to lead laps here. And if you dismiss him because he starts 5th, you may miss out on a potential dominator. And that kind of goes for most of the guys starting top 10, except for probably Todd Gilliland. And there's a lot of upside with a lot of different guys because of that quote unquote dominator potential. Bubba Wallace led 80 laps here last year. He started 5th, was 2nd at the end of stage 1, 4th at the end of stage 2, led 80 laps. He was a really strong car. I can see him replicating that again. Now, I do think there are 2 different versions of this track. There's the spring race, which we have now, and then the summer race where it's a lot hotter and the track's slicker and things like that. I do think that presents different guys running well in different races. HMS seems better in the spring. JGR seems better in the summer. I don't know if that's going to play into effect this time around. I think it's possible, but it's really hard to get Truex and Hamlin out of my head when they've just consistently dominated here long term. But it's not just about 1. It's not just about 2. It's literally about getting 3 of these guys. So it's a mixing and matching and game theory concept where you're going to go heavier on Hamlin. You're probably going to have a decent amount of Truex. You're going to have a decent amount of Larson. But then you also need to be on your secondary guys, your Bubba Wallaces, your Bowmans, your guys that could lead here or have led here or that have fast enough cars that all they need is that 50 to 80 lap sled, which we see to hit. And when you factor in the idea that there are pit strategies involved where guys can run long or can short pit, and that will get them the lead for chunks of this race. If Bubba Wallace is sitting there 4th and he's the first guy on pit road and the guys 1st, 2nd, and 3rd run long, when those guys pit on the green, the Bubba's going to be a leader and he may be able to lead for 40 laps until he comes again for a second stop. So there's more than just like, oh, wow, they're the fastest guy or they're out front. It can be through strategy. That's really how Denny Hamlin does it. Denny Hamlin will run long almost every single freaking time because he doesn't fall off as much. So his slow lap times on old tires aren't as bad as everyone else's. So he's willing to go a little bit longer, hope for a caution. If it doesn't come, he'll get fresh tires, and then he'll be faster on the back end, right? So, and Truex is good about that as well. But Hamlin really pushes that envelope and likes to run that strategy. So he could lead. Like, he may never be the fastest car. He may never get up there. But he can lead 30 laps the first time that happens, 30 laps the second time that happens, have 60 laps led, finish 4th, and be the guy you need without ever really being the best car, right? So it's not just about, wow, he's the best guy this weekend.
Yeah, we're gonna. There was a lot of names there as far as dominators, obviously, because we're gonna have there's a lot. There's a lot of laps on the line here. We're gonna sort through and get kind of like a ranking of these guys here in just a minute. But just to kind of like hammer home the point about how you mentioned about how you know they can come from anywhere, right? These dominator points, they come from guys you don't expect. If you look at the 4 races here in the next gen, I saw a crazy stat that only 2 drivers priced above 10K has been in the optimal in all 4 races. That's 2 total, right? And both of those came in one race within the same race, which is this race 1 year ago today. So that means 3 of the last 4 didn't even see a guy above 10K in the optimal, right? So definitely a lot. That's the thing that we see here in Richmond. But speaking of guys at that 10K mark and above, like what the hell is going on? How is Ty Gibbs 10K? Like what is this?
So what happened is all of us degenerates saw Ty Gibbs. Sorry, I read Bubble Wall. Saw Ty Gibbs at 22-1 and 18-1, and we bet his ass down to 8-1. And then DK builds salaries off of the odds. So because we bet Gibbs all the way down to 8-1, DK had no choice but to make him really expensive. So
can you play him at 10? How do you feel about playing Ty Gibbs at 10K tomorrow?
What if he leads?
I know. What if he did? But how do
Like,
you feel about it? Like, I know, but like does that? I mean, is he?
I think Ty Gibbs is the best prospect we've had. I think Ty Gibbs is the best prospect
for Ty Gibbs tomorrow.
No, but I don't play a lot of lineups. If I built 100 lineups, and yes, absolutely, I'd want 15% of Ty Gibbs. But I don't play a lot of lineups, so it's not how I build, right? I think he's in play. Like, I don't think it's outrageous to think that he could run at the front. The question becomes, is he the random dominator? Do I think he's Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin type ultra dominator? No. If I think a Gibbs car is going to dominate this race, I'm going to pick those 2 over him. But do I think he can be a sneaky contrarian dominator that leads 50 laps? Yeah, I think he's in the mix. I think he's in the mix with, Bubba and Bowman. Like, I keep saying those names because nobody's going to pick them to lead. But if they led, nobody, like, I wouldn't be surprised. And so, like Gibbs is weird, but I think he's in the group. It may be at a lower percentage. Like, you don't have to feel too confident about it, but he's in the group.
Yeah, Gibbs 9th and 15th in the races here last year. Alex Bowman, though, I don't think he's going to be slept on too much. Starting 4th, only 8,000. If you look at practice speeds, he jumps out right.
And that's the thing. Good in practice.
Yeah, he's been on kind of a heater here recently, right? He's won here. I think he's going to probably draw some ownership. I would guess, but we'll see. So let's let's talk dominators. Let's get to some conclusion here so we can kind of get to some position differential. So let's rank the top. Let's go with the 4 guys above 10K that we've mentioned. Let's rank them: Hamlin, Truex, Byron, Larson.
So I'm going to go Larson 1. I do like the early path. I do think I like 2 things. I like the early path to domination, which because he starts on the pole, and then I also like the HMS as a whole showed speed. I think that's very advantageous. Number 1 pit stall is also very, very beneficial, and he's pretty good here. Like he's got a good track record, so I do feel good about that. Next up, I'm kind of feeling Martin Truex this week. I don't rate him extremely high in terms of my ratings, and I probably didn't project him as high.
Odds on favorite Truex is at plus 450. I don't know how that is or why. I mean, I know he's great, but it just shocks me that he's the favorite. Like,
I think that's wrong. Like, I don't think he should be the odds on favorite, but I don't think he should be too far from it either.
Yeah.
Listen, there's
plus been 450 seems so crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, he's been really good here. He just doesn't have a lot of wins, and he doesn't have a lot of bad results for a lot of dominator performances. The thing with him is since the next gen car, he hasn't been as good, right? He hasn't been as strong as he was. And there were times
nighttime play. Is it the nighttime because he's good at night here? Is that what it is?
Probably. And I think he has the auto owners and every weird thing that works in his favor.
God, let's hope it doesn't get rained out to Monday. He'll be negative 120.
But with Truex, the thing I like about him is no matter how bad the car is, he still finds a way through it. I think it was the fall or the summer race here last year. He was not good. And what they ended up having to do is they short pitted really badly, like way too early. And I forget why it was. I don't know if he had a tire go down. I don't know what the hell it was, but he pitted extremely early. And then he ran like 30 laps on those tires. Then everyone else came in. And then like 20 or 30 laps into that run, like after everyone pitted, he was running the exact same lap times. Like his fall off through that run, like the 100 lap run that he ran was unfreaking godly. Like it made no sense. And he was running equal times to everyone else with 30 lap older tires.
Yeah.
That's what Truex brings. That's what Martin Truex has at his disposal, where he has an elite ability to maintain tires over a long run and maintain speed. That is why I personally think, yes, he's one of the top picks to win, but as the favorite, that feels weird considering he doesn't win races anymore. Like he's definitely on the back end of his career. You're not seeing him like Danny Hamlin's going out there and winning races. Danny Hamlin's going out there and kicking ass. Truex isn't doing that. So just from a fundamental aspect, I would think Larson and Hamlin should be favorites over him, but he's definitely in the top 3 or 4 guys.
Hamlin's coming in at 4th right now, what I saw recently. So that's crazy.
That's
Still,
weird.
everybody's close, right? 650,
Yeah.
And they're not separated by much. This isn't a gambling show, though. This is a DFS show. So we had Larson. Yeah, you had Larson, Truex. Wrap it up there. Hamlin, Larson, I'm guessing next. Hamlin.
Yeah, Hamlin next, then Bell. Bell carries the place differential, was good, but he's not a huge dominator here. I don't expect him to dominate, at least not over Hamlin and Truex. So I would put him 4th. And this is a great example of, sure, Bell has place differential, and sure, Bell can finish 6th. But if Hamlin and Truex lead 80 laps each, they offset the place differential, right? So I care more about the dominator points. We talked about this at Bristol, and Hamlin actually, I think Hamlin started deep in the field at Bristol. I can't remember anymore because I drank a little too much tonight. But there was a race where Hamlin came in. I think it was Vegas. Hamlin started like 30th. It might have been Phoenix, actually. I don't know. He started like 30th. And he was like 22% owned. And I was like, how the hell is Danny Hamlin 22% owned? This doesn't make sense. And people just avoided him. It was definitely Phoenix now because they were chasing the place differential. And to an extent, that's fine. To an extent, that's fine. Danny Hamlin, I believe, was optimal on that slate, I think. But Bell is not Hamlin. I don't feel like at Richmond. And I feel like Hamlin's dominator upside is a lot greater. But if Bell ends up getting 30 fast laps and finishing 3rd, then he can still be optimal as well. So I like the play. It's just he's more of a place differential guy than some of the other ones.
Is it when you look at the way like the lineup has shaken out for tomorrow night's race? If you look at guys priced over 7,700, like there's really not a whole lot of position differential upside outside of Bell starting 29th and maybe Keselowski starting 23rd, Reddick starting 19th. So would it be safe to say that if you're anybody that you're playing above that $7,700 range, you're basically aiming for dominator points, right? Like you're not playing a guy being like, man, I hope he gets the top 5s, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's the biggest aspect of this slate. There's nobody really underqualified. There's not a lot of obvious plays differential, which is going to boost Keselowski's ownership, I think, a lot because he feels like the guy, right? Like he's the one guy and he's cheap. But yeah, none of them, not a lot of options. We'll get to it. You mentioned the price range there, but below them, there's a couple options, but there's not a lot of clear plays. A lot of guys that should run roughly where they start, which makes it tricky because it honestly, it makes it tricky, but it doesn't in another aspect because it becomes more about picking the dominators. It's less about some random asshole being a great place differential play and more about picking the right dominator. So from that aspect, it's almost better because you're going to spread out ownership between all the potential dominators. Bell's going to get his ownership. I popped up Brian's question there where, Bell's probably going to be the most roster driver. I don't think so. I think people will be more on some potential high-end dominators, but Bell will be up there in ownership for sure.
Bell's second favorite still. So
yeah, he's still a huge favorite to win this race. That's not right. That should not be the case. Because he's just not as good as Hamlin Truex here. Like he just hasn't been. Now, Bell on short flat tracks is great, but Hamlin and Truex have just been, they have such a track record, right? It's you're looking at the Beatles basically in their track record here between
the Beatles. The Richmond Beatles.
Look, we're old people. We established this early. I
Okay,
just, yeah, to me,
let's keep talking
a lot more
dominators here.
yeah.
We gotta push.
Yes, we do. We got to be under an hour.
Let's talk about some of the lower price dominators, right? You ranked the top guys. Is there anybody priced below 10K that you would throw above those four guys, those Larson, Truex, Hamlin, Bell? And if not, who would be your next guy?
Not really. I mean, that's the thing. The top end is so obvious, and then everyone else below them are not obvious. And part of it, the obvious aspect is what we've seen, like what we saw at Phoenix with Toyotas dominating, what we've seen so far this year. But also because Hamlin and Truex have such a great track record, and even Bell has a good one. Like all those guys have good track records here. And we're talking about a track that rewards guys who are just great here. There's not a lot of variance, right? We mentioned this earlier where because there's not a lot of deviation from guys and they're going to hit 90% of the time, it's so obvious that Hamlin and Truex and Bell and Larson are going to be the guys that it just feels like that's the right play. Where on the flip side, it could be Buescher like it was last year. And mentally, it's kind of hard to get away from the obvious plays for me. Personally, and I would assume for the field, like most people who are playing that. But you have a guy like Chase Elliott who's starting on the front row who could have a super fast car and who could lead laps. You have a lot of guys under 10K that could all do that. Buescher, Elliott, Chastain, Logano's really, really good here. I don't think he has race winning upside, but dude, if he led 50 laps because his car's really good, I wouldn't be shocked. Bowman, Wallace. I mean, we already talked about those guys, but that entire group of 6-7 drivers are all potential race winners or dominators. So you don't want to completely rule them out either just because you're heavy on those top guys. But again, Richmond, for me, Richmond's such a case of the best drivers and the best cars and the consistency of the same guys winning that it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. I mean, you literally go back and look. And yes, there's the Chris Buescher win. Yes, there's the Alex Bowman win. But aside from that, it's Larson, Harvick. No one's surprised Harvick won here. Hamlin, Truex, Keselowski, Truex, Kyle Busch, Larson, Logano, Hamlin. Like it's a very small core of guys. And the races that those guys aren't winning, they're finishing top 5. It's a tight group in terms of the most likely winners because of the track record here and how likely it's going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of good guys are like there. Looks like Brian really likes Bubba Wallace. So Bubba Wallace, I know we spoke about him. Yeah, so he's definitely got upside. Guy who's really caught my eye. I know you mentioned him, Chris Buescher. I know we saw he led a lot of laps last time here, but yeah, obviously he's been on a roll here last couple of races, right? Top 3s, top 4s, right? He's a lot of momentum here. Fast in practice, and I know we talked about practice speeds. Can we really look at it? But he's still third in that group around some other guys who are also fast, right? So I don't know. I like Buescher too. But.
Yeah, the one thing I do like about some of these other guys like Bubba, like Bowman, like Buescher even, Logano, we can throw that, is the price point. So we're talking about, hey, we need 3 dominators. And if we're attacking that upper tier, it's super hard. It's super hard to play Larson, Hamlin, and Truex, right? Like that's impossible to build a decent lineup unless they all lead 100 laps. If they all lead 100 laps, it doesn't really matter what the fuck you do with the rest of your lineup. But who's that third guy? Maybe the third guy is one of those cheaper options, and you're going to be able to build a better lineup from there. And I know a lot of guys are maybe going to chase some place differential in that mid range, like Keselowski, and Keselowski is a great option as a place differential play. Reddick, they may chase, who I don't like as much, but instead of chasing one of those place differential guys, if you're chasing the third dominator and you hit on Elliott, and we had the same discussion at Bristol, if Elliott had went out there and led 100 laps, he would have been a great play. I didn't realize the field was going to be 36% Elliott or whatever the hell it was, but that's the mindset. It's like, okay, you get a cheap option here who could lead, and so mixing in those third option dominators to potentially be the guy to run out of the lineup makes a lot of sense. And if they just kind of run top 10 and score 42 points, it doesn't matter, right? Like, yeah, Keselowski may score 55, and that would be the optimal play, perhaps. But if you do hit on Bubba and he's 15% owned and he leads 80 laps, you've got a really good situation there, right? So I like mixing and matching those guys in, using them as secondary pivots or secondary dominator options to kind of round out lineups. And I think it's the best way to use them.
All right, fill in the blank. My favorite driver under 10K is blank.
My favorite driver under 10K. That's a tricky question.
I know you've said it's a tricky question for the 4 times I've asked you. I'm trying to get an answer.
Oh, you've asked me it several times. Okay. So you mean in that 10 to 8K range is what you're asking? Like,
yeah, just asking for like
I'm
who's
sorry.
that top next Dominator guy that we
It's
can
Brett
get.
Keselowski. I mean,
Okay.
now he's not a Dominator play for my money, but I feel like that's the safest play. So, and we can talk about like his stats here if we want to, but he's just super consistent. He's 8.2K, starts 23rd, 13th with 0 fast laps, scores 40 points. If he gets like a handful of fast laps, it's more. If he randomly finishes 10th, it's even more. He's finished 13th or better in 16 of the last 20 races. So literally 75% of the time, he's accomplishing this goal that we're kind of hoping for. Dude, if he finishes 10th with like 8 fast laps, he's going to clear 50 points and he's going to be a great play. That feels a lot more comfortable for me. So I'm definitely going to play him like cash. Definitely going to do that. If I'm looking for a third Dominator, if I'm looking for a guy to stand out and jump out there and grab the lead, to be a little bit different, it's going to be Alex Bowman. I have this weird fetish with Alex Bowman on high tire wear tracks. Like some people like feet, some people like different things. I like Alex Bowman on high tire wear tracks. When you look back at his track record, his wins have come on at Richmond, at Chicago. He runs really good at Cali. Like he's a high tire wear track guy. Like that helps him elevate to a top 5 guy. And quite frankly, he's running really well right now, right? So I like the positive momentum they have as a team. I'm very interested in the speed that HMS has currently. And I don't think Bowman has a lot of ownership. I don't think people trust him to go out there and lead. So I think you can get a guy at maybe 15%, maybe even less. I don't know. Last time I said this with Elliott, the dude was 37%. So who knows? But I think Bowman's going to be low owned, and I do consider him a Dominator threat. Like he's won here by just being good on the long run. So I definitely like that as a cheap sneaky play.
Are you more apt to play Bowman as a pivot off of like a Larson, or would you play them together?
Both. Like I think there's some merit to being like, okay, HMS has the best setup for this weekend. They're going to be pretty strong as a unit. Larson leads 80 laps, and Bowman comes up, second stage or something. I think there's something to be said for that. The old stack, like we saw at Phoenix, I think every Toyota driver led 80 laps. I don't know how many actually did it, but it felt like every single Toyota guy led a bunch of that race, right? So I do think it's possible that HMS just hits the setup and that those guys both lead. Now, I do think it's possible that we deal with a race where Larson leads 20 laps and he loses the lead, and then someone else leads, and then someone else leads, and then we do the same until it eventually settles out till we get our main Dominators. But yeah, I think you can pair them together. I do like using them as a pivot, like you say. Okay, Larson only leads 20 laps, but then falls. So I'm going to put in Bowman there, who all of a sudden leads 100 laps, and then I'm going to focus on some other builds, and that could be a little bit different of a build, which is nice from that aspect. But I just like it as one, as a contrarian Dominator, and two, because of the price point, and he's a pivot off of Brad Keselowski. Even if he doesn't, like I talked about Brad scoring like 50 points if he finishes 10th. Yeah, I think that's probably a high probability. Like if you're trying to play it safer, yeah, Brad makes sense. But what happens if Bowman just finishes third and has 25 fast laps? Like he outscores Brad. So in that respect, I think there's still potential for Bowman in that.
All right. Well, that's I think we covered a lot of the lower price Dominators there. We like Bowman. We like Bubba. We like Busher. A lot of good plays, a lot of ways you can get creative here. I know we didn't talk about your boy Tyler Reddick there. He's got some position differential. So let's kind of start talking about some position differential plays. Is there anybody else who we haven't spoken about that you would be targeting for position differential, or is it this basically like a guy like Keselowski who could potentially lead and Bell who could potentially get some Dominator points? Is there anybody else above that, or are we basically going down?
So above 8K, no, there's a real. I mean, it's Bell. Like Bell's obvious. I think
you don't like Reddick.
I don't like Reddick. Reddick's. So here's the thing: starting 19th, yes, there's some risk in my disdain for him, but he's never finished top 10 here. even last year. Yeah, and yes, last year's speeding penalty or commitment line violation, I think, was what kept Reddick out of the optimal lineup. Like he was very, very quick. But on the long runs, he still struggled versus the other top drivers. And now he's going to be mid-pack. I don't think he's got the car. Like, he had an elite car last year. I don't think he has that type of speed. I think he's a 15th place guy, and I just don't really give a shit if he finishes 15th. If he finishes 8th, again, cool. You got me 45, 70, 45 or 50 points doesn't do anything when I'm chasing guys scoring 70 or 80.
You'd much rather trust the Brad K, who can serve the tires, who he's probably going to get some fast laps because he's just even if he runs 16th, he's probably going to get fast laps because
So my plate differential guys are below this. Now, I do think there's a lot of very, very damn good plays from like 65 to 7,500. And
let's talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, yes, let's talk about him. Sorry, to 76 because that's where Chase Briscoe is. But, Chase Briscoe and Josh Berry are obvious. Like they start 32nd, 30th. They both have top 20 upside, maybe even top 15 upside. And they're relatively cheap. They're going to allow me to afford multiple top end dominators. And I think they both have really good upside here. Now, I'm not a huge Josh Berry fan in terms of his overall talent. I think his second place last year was a complete fluke because it was. But he is a very good long run driver, and he is a guy that can run well when the tires fall off. Like that's obviously an advantage. When you look at Chase Briscoe, he's finished 11th, 23rd, 12th, and 11th with the next gen car here. So I have 3 finishes of 12th or 11th. And he's starting 32nd. Like to me, that's just a home run play. He could just run 22nd. He may only score 30 points. He may only do the minimal, in terms of what his potential is. But the upside is massive. And, 12th place scores 51 points. Like you don't even need a top 10 finish from that play to be massive. And so I really like that play. Josh Berry's similar. I don't know exactly where I am on Berry with the new team and things. Like I'm trying to trust him overall. Obviously, that second place was good last year, but he wasn't running great either. Like he was kind of mediocre in that race. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around him. But starting 30th, he has a lot of hallmarks of a good play. And then Michael McDowell's sitting there from 31st, and he could potentially do that, but he's got an awful track record here. I mean, like
terrible on short flats, typically.
Really, really bad here. So that's super sketchy as well. But dude, if Michael McDowell's 17th, would you be shocked? Like, no. I don't really know. And now we're getting to that point where he's 7K, and then we get to my favorite play in terms of a tournament option. That's Austin Dillon. I know we're gonna have fun. I know we're gonna have fun talking about Austin Dillon.
We can't talk high tire wear track without talking about our boy Austin Dillon.
I almost got lazy in my write-up with him because I was like, I don't know what else to say here. And so it's literally in his last 10 Richmond races, he's finished 6th, 6th, 4th, 10th, 11th, 10th, and 9th. So he has 7 top 10s. 6 top 10s and the 11th in his last 10 races.
Wow.
Like Austin Dillon is I wanted to cut out my cussing there. He's an absolute stud on this track type. I loved Austin Dillon on high tire wear tracks. He's 6.8K. If he freaking does it again, he's a freaking smash play, right? And so
he's starting 22nd. You ain't got to worry about him like going a lap down because like he didn't have the short run speed early, right? He can,
yes, like it like I love it, and I love Austin Dillon in there. So, I mean, for me, it's a great spot to be in for Austin Dillon. I love that at 6,800, and I still don't think people like him or trust him. So I really like that play as well. Briscoe Berry fit really well as place differential plays. I think you're going to end up on them a lot simply because you're going to pay up for, like if you end up on Larson and Hamlin, for instance, and then you get a third mid-ish range, like, I don't know, you go Chastain or whoever the hell you go with. I don't really care. But at some point, you're going to have to pay down for your like 4th best driver or your 4th like stud play. And that's probably going to be a driver like Briscoe or Berry. But Dillon is a guy that I think has a lot of potential. I love the fact that he can be up there. And this isn't true, Brian. that 3 car had like a top 5 picker for the last 2 years. So I don't really give a crap about a couple of mistakes. Austin Dillon's been really strong here, and their picker has been really good over 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely love the Austin Dillon call there. I do agree. I don't think anybody's going to play him. When you look at the guys who are priced around him, they're all starting further back. People are going to go for the Barry Briscoe, even the Michael McDowell, probably Eric Jones. Like you might get Dillon at 12% tomorrow. So love that in GPPs. But we know, like, I mean, if your top favorites are those high price guys, right? And you're saying we're going to start 3 dominators, and we're most likely going to be starting 2 of those guys towards the top. So we're going to need to save even more salary than that 6,800. So who are you liking?
Real quick. No, Dustin, I am not. He was 9th the last race here because he's freaking good at high tire wear tracks. All right, go ahead.
Who are we talking about?
We need to get into the value punt tiers, and then we need to get into the giveaway because I know people are very interested in the money I'm giving away.
Let's talk about it. Value below 6,800.
Yes.
Who do we like?
All right. So for me, there are a couple obvious plays that I really, really like, and they're at 6K and at 5,900. That's Ricky Stenhouse and Carson Hocevar. I think they're the perfect kind of mix of some place differential with top 20, maybe top 15 upside. Stenhouse had a really good run here with Roush, and he had a bunch of like finishes in the teens. That, at that price at 6K, trying to round out lineups where I'm focusing on dominators. If he can get me 32 to 35 points, I'd probably be okay with it. You want more, and there's probably some random asshole on the slate that's going to score 42. Like Harrison Burton's going to randomly hit. But for the most part, I that's not true. If Harrison Burton hits, I'll eat my hat. Actually, no, that doesn't taste good. I don't want to do that. But like, you get my point. Like Ricky Stenhouse has a bunch
you're
of
eating the hat.
Shit. Stenhouse has a lot of good results here. So I think it's reasonable to think that, hey, if he's 17th or 16th or 15th at the end of this race, that's not super surprising. He's only 6K. That's a score that can, hit 32 to 35 points. That could be fine. Now, Hocevar is a guy that I trust more because I think he's like, I think 5 years from now, we can see Carson Hocevar with an elite team winning races. Like, I think he's in a top 15 talent potentially. And so anytime I can play a guy that starts 25th and that I consider a talent that can get me to a top 15 to 17 finish is a guy that I want. And, he's had in his last 14 races, which is really his entire Cup career, dating back to when he did Legacy Motor Club stuff last year, he has 8 finishes in the top 20 in those 14 races. And that's 5 finishes of 17th or better. Like, in terms of an upside, that's what I'm looking for from this price point. And I think he can deliver that at like a 30 to 40% clip. And my concern with him is the Richmond aspect of long run speed, and maybe he cooks his tires and he struggles on the long run. But Hocevar is such a good driver, and he's, especially short tracks, like he doesn't get the credit he probably deserves. Maybe I don't know. Maybe people think he's great and I'm an idiot. Because I've been beating this guy's drum for 4 years now.
You are just smitten by Carson Hocevar.
I am.
You are just like the way your face lights up when you start talking about Carson Hocevar. Like I wish I loved somebody as much as you love Carson Hocevar. Really, Larkin. Like
I'll let your wife know that. Anyways, no, like really, I mean, Hocevar is someone that I'm truly a believer in as a prospect, and so I invest my money in guys like that. Yes, there's going to be races where he screws up because he's super young and he's dumb, but I love the upside. I'm going to chase that. And then lastly, your other options are Zane Smith, who I think is the opposite of Hocevar. I don't think Zane Smith's that elite upside talent, but he's the smarter, safer, more reliable guy, probably long term. Like, he's not going to make as many stupid mistakes, hopefully. So I like him from 28th. And then you got guys like Justin Haley from 36, who I like. Haley starting at the very back looks like, yeah, he has the slowest car, but they're never going to be as aggressive setup wise, but in the race, he may have plenty of race pace when they're conserving tires and things like that. Justin Haley gets in the top 25. It's going to be a decent score at 5.3K. So I do like Haley.
Needs in practice. Got him like he's got a rocket ship.
Yeah. So I like Haley. The thing about like Ty Dillon and Hemrick, who both kind of fit into this mold, is that Colleague was so god awful here last year that it's really hard for me to get behind them. It's hard for
Did
me
you
to
say
trust.
Ty Dillon?
Yeah, Ty Dillon's in the 16,
What?
baby.
Where?
Oh yeah, he's back, baby.
Where did
He's back for his 29th place finish.
he's in the Colleague car? How did that happen?
Well, his grandpapa supplies motors to the team. That's how it happened.
It's an Easter present, is what you're saying. It's an Easter gift.
Pretty much. No, I mean, yeah, Dylan's actually okay-ish for like a 27th place finish. You can round out lineups with him or Hemrick. I think Haley probably beats them, and so I just kind of like Haley over them. But when you're talking about a 3 to 4 dominator race where you need to potentially pay up for high salaries, if you build your lineup and you're like, I want Larson, I want Hamlin, I want Truex, fuck it, I don't care. You want the 3 highest priced guys most likely to dominate, whatever. And you got a shave salary. If all 3 of them dominate, it doesn't matter who you play in this range, right? Like just punt, just absolutely punt. If you got the 3 big dominators, you're fine. I always go back to a Phoenix race where I had Reed Sorensen and I had the absolute dead nuts until a late caution. And I had that because I had 3 dominators who all led 80 plus laps. And it really didn't matter who my punt was because I had the rest of the lineup built. So if you build that elite lineup with 3 dominators and you feel comfortable with it and you just have to settle on Haley or settle on Hemrick, fine. Hemrick's the cheapest guy. He may only run 30th. If he runs 27th and it allows you to afford all the guys you want in your lineup and all the dominators, then it doesn't really matter. And so it's definitely a slate where you can punt with a Hemrick, you can punt with a Haley, you can punt with those guys to save salary to get to dominator plays, and that'll work. So I think it's worth punting if you're getting those top end guys. If Larson leads the first chunk, Hamlin leads the second chunk, or Truex leads the second chunk, and then Bell shows up late, that's not a super rare scenario. I think most lineups are going to be built that way, but that's not super rare. And then you need to play a cheap guy. So everyone's kind of playable in that aspect down here. It's just which one do you want?
Yeah, punts are definitely always viable when you have these 4 lap races. I need
to take a second.
Yeah, take a second.
I'm sorry.
It's crazy that DraftKings has. Go ahead.
Daryl wants a hat, and I do have one hat left. I don't know where. Oh, I do know where it is. I have one hat left. I bought a bunch of these last year and gave them a bunch away. All right, Daryl, you changed that helmet. You changed that helmet, and you put on one of those DFR logos. So me and Daryl took down the chrome horn today. We split it. We were best friends. And then I look, and instead of having 3 of our subs in there out of the 5 people that split it, I got this helmet staring at me. And I'm like, bro, you could be supporting me. So Daryl, you switched that helmet and you got a hat.
I can't believe we're 52 minutes into the show and just now talked about you got a takedown today. Like, terrible.
I don't like bragging.
Really? You just mean not publicly, right?
Not publicly. Yeah, I got a takedown. So we crushed it. We nailed it. Yeah, there's a whole another avenue of why I don't play the big contest, but we had 2 guys split the big contest. I took down every contest I was in. We had the absolute dead nuts today. That feels so damn good, right? Like, it's amazing when you have that. So I'm happy that everyone got the win. I'm happy I got the win finally. Like, it felt like rear end housings kept popping out when I was about to win big. So it all went well. We had a big win today. That's why I'm drinking to celebrate. That is the only reason I am drinking. I do not drink. But I figured I'd celebrate a little bit with you guys, and that's why I'm like this.
Yeah, we were.
I got one left.
I was close to winning the Xfinity race last week. We could have went back to back on the big.
Didn't you have it post race before the penalty? Like, you had it.
Post race.
You had the screenshot.
The nuts post race. 10 minutes after the race,
That's
I had like dominated the field by 20 plus points. Like, not even a question. And then
you won.
SVG penalty. Like, as the broadcast is going off, I heard it, and I'm like, "What? What did they just say? Did they just say SVG?" Like, Twitter real quick. I'm like, "Oh no, what happened?"
I have a question. That was the worst thing. Like, it was bullshit. I'm sorry that happened to you, Jason. Like, seriously, like that's awful. But I have a question for people. Did everyone used to collect these little monster tabs? Like, in high school and stuff, did everyone used like every time they drink a Monster would put this on a little? We had all these little what are those things like the locks or the hooks or whatever, and you like clip it to your side, but instead you would clip it on your backpack with 300 Monster cans because you're like, yo, bro, I drink energy drinks, so I'm cool. Did anyone else do that?
No, but you're a lot younger than me, evidently. That I just found out tonight. So no, that must have been before my time, I guess.
Dude, yes, probably, but it also may be a Southern thing. Like in North Carolina, every redneck had one of those hooks, so it's probably just a Southern
Town
thing.
is saying no. He does not know what you're talking about. So no, probably.
Yeah, but he lives in Canada. Like that doesn't even count. All right, let's
wrap it up. Let's round out things for the listeners. We were kind of a little bit all over the place tonight. There was a lot of we said a lot of names. There was a lot. We got through a lot. So let's round it out. Get people the path. Give them the presents in their eggs or whatever you guys get. Your Easter Bunny gives you. Let's do a core 4 more. Wrap it up. Yeah, you forgot about it. We didn't know. Yeah. God, this is gonna be a good one. We're gonna need a core 4. These are 4 guys we need to be looking to build our lineups around.
All right. So let's start with the obvious. Denny Hamlin. We're not shying away from him too much. If we're building for safety, if we're building to play into the ownership, to play for cash lineups, to play for Denny Hamlin, we don't shy away from it. Next up, Brad Keselowski. I love his track record here. I love his, his floor. I think his his upside is good. Sorry, I'm reading the chat and it's making me lose my concentration. Don't ever read your own chat in a video. Carson Hocevar, because we need someone cheap. We're gonna need someone cheap. I'm putting my eggs on Easter Sunday. I have a pun for us. I'm putting my eggs in Carson Hocevar's basket.
That was an excellent pun.
Oh, fuck. And everyone tunes out. And then lastly, because I am so into this guy, Chase Briscoe. Holy fuck all. Chase Briscoe is my other guy. Jesus Christ.
Maybe we won't round this out, guys.
This is why I do not drink, by the way, because I can't control myself. But Chase Briscoe, Jesus Christ, I did it again. Chase Briscoe is I like that he starts 32nd. I like that he starts 32nd, and I like that he has such a good track record here, right? Like you have numerous finishes of 11th and 12th with this next gen car here at this track. He's very, very good at this style racing. And I think he's going to be a guy that at the end of this race is contending for a top 15, and that's going to be a really good score. So I really like that play as well. Now, I only gave out one Dominator there, one potential Dominator, and that's the tricky part. We'll get to that in 4 more, but the poor 4, we absolutely smashed last time. They all crashed out last time, and I felt so fucking good about it.
I know Larkin's like messaging me like, who was all in my poor 4? It's like, yes, 3 down, 1 to go. I'm like,
it was amazing.
Know what we've created here.
All right, so holy crap, we got a deal. Daryl switching the helmet. Yes, nice. Sir. Let's go. Oh, sorry to my former employer. Anyways, the poor 4 is probably gonna make me look stupid. Because I'm going to be extremely risky with these plays. I'm going to take chances with them. The first one's Chris Buescher.
You hated Buescher for weeks now, dude. You just keep I hate you. God, you hate Chris Buescher as much as you love Carson Hocevar.
So it's kind of true. I actually really like Chris Buescher, and I think he's a great driver, and he's definitely in play for a top 10. But when you look at his track record, he was first last race here. He dominated 1. He finished 3rd in 2022 in the summer. Very good finish. He hasn't finished better than 15th in any other of the 13 races he's been here. Okay, he's not a top 10 guy historically at this track, and that concerns me. So if RFK has elite race pace again, I'm just going to look to live bet him. Whatever. but I don't think he's going to have the Dominator potential. And then when you look at his price point, it's still kind of in that Dominator range. 9,300 for a guy who starts 14th. I don't give a shit if he finishes 8th. He can finish 8th all damn day. As long as he doesn't get randomly 40 fast laps, it's not going to hurt me. And so for me, I'm okay taking that risk. Now, it's a risk. He won the last race here. I'm fully aware that it's sketchy, but yeah, I want to take that risk, and I'm kind of into not playing him. If he bites me in the ass, he bites me in the ass, and I'll eat shit and when I eat my hat. But like, I just don't like to play. And on that same exact line of thinking, I don't like Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick is not good here. Historically, not good here. He's 8,700, so still expensive. 19th to 9th. Congratulations, you scored 45 points. I don't really care. I'm chasing Dominator points. I'm chasing guys that are going to score 50, 60, hopefully 80 points. I don't really care if Reddick scores that. So when I look at Tyler Reddick's history, when I look at his actual ability on this track, he has an average finish of 18th. He's never finished in the top 10 here. Yes, he ran great early in the race last year, and he still found a way to screw it up. I think he probably finishes top 15. I think that's fine. But when Austin Dillon, they were teammates at RCR. When Austin Dillon's finishing top 10 and you're finishing 15th, I consider it a problem when I know you're a more talented driver. And he has an issue on long green flag runs. He's not good here at Richmond. He's admittedly not good here at Richmond. And I want to lean into that. I want to trust myself. I think he's going to see a decent amount of ownership. And I think that's a spot I can leverage and take advantage of. Crap, I got to find 2 more. I really got to pee too.
We're almost done.
I broke the seal before we started this podcast, and that was a horrible decision too. Next up, let's go. Noah Gregson. Let's have some fun with this shit. All right, Noah, you have 2 good runs. You think you're fantastic. I don't like you starting 17th. Now, Noah Gregson may run well. He may score well, but will he be optimal? I don't know. And the way I equate this as a driver I'm willing to kind of get away from is if he finishes 11th, he scores 38 points. Keep in mind, he finished 11th at Phoenix when he looked like a fantastic play. No, this isn't even true. This is not true. I still have a long way to go. All right. But Noah Gregson from 17th at 7,100, he's not 62 or 6,300. 71 is still kind of expensive. And I can play his teammates for 400 to 500 more who start 32nd and 30th. And I think those are just better plays. So I'm kind of okay being off of him. He's surrounded by, some great place differential guys. And then Austin Dillon, who I love, I just feel as a better play here. And so for me, I can maybe get away from what may be a surprisingly higher owned Gregson than he should be. Like if Gregson comes in at like 18%, I'm going to be really happy because I don't think he's going to be on the winning lineup. I could be wrong. I'm fine being wrong. But hey, you know what? 400 laps to prove me wrong, Noah, again, and make me look like an asshole.
One more
to make 4.
One more to make 4.
Todd Gillen. I'm gonna go easy on Todd Gillen. He's not optimal. Period. Okay. Move on. We're done.
Good job.
Yes.
Four more. Four more.
Right,
Give me 4 more. These are low-owned plays. You can potentially find some leverage on the field.
Yeah, so this is where I really like Alex Bowman. We talked about this earlier. I think Bowman's a guy that can run up front all race. And so I want to take some shots at that. I think I think he's a guy that can contend. And so at his price point with that upside, I want to attack that. And I think there's going to be a relatively low ownership number. And I would like to hit on that. And so I do like that play. I didn't give Austin Dillon as my core 4, right?
No, you did not, but I already got him written down for your 4 more.
Yeah. Austin Dillon, I definitely think he's a great tournament play. I rattle off his finishes here. High tower tracks, long green flag runs, he smashes. I'm going to attack that in tournaments, and that's a guy that I still think people don't trust, and they will be off of him. Now, the price point and Jones' bad track history pre-starting too high, maybe people just play him out of necessity, but I do think Dillon's a great play, and I'm hoping he comes in at under 20%. Next up, a guy that I don't really care about ownership. I know that's kind of the stipulation, but I'm hoping his ownership's relative. It can't be, but I'm hoping it is Martin Truex. We need dominators on the slate, and it's really hard for me to tell where ownership's going to lie. The fact that Truex is the favorite kind of scares me because it makes me think that the public is on him, right? Like those odds should only exist if people are betting him to win the race. So from that aspect, I'm a little fearful of his overall ownership, but I think he's definitely a threat to lead in this race. So I do like that play. And then lastly, I'm going to use Justin Haley as this last play here. I think there's going to be a lot of times in lineup building that we're using a ton of salary, and that's a concern for me. It's like, how do we afford that? How do we get around from that? Can we make that work, and how do we do that? And I think Justin Haley's the best guy to do that with. He got disqualified from COTA, but that he ran really great. I don't really give a shit if he was a little bit underweight. He was really good. Bristol, he was 17th, ran great. And a lot of that was aided because they were not as aggressive with their setup. So when the tire wear, it didn't affect them as much, right? And so they were able to attack a lot more. 24th at Phoenix, 27th at Vegas. Like 27th right now is a good enough result. 27th is okay for the price point and what we're trying to accomplish. If he gets to 24th, it's even better. If he manages the top 20 somehow, it's even better. In a track like Richmond, where being good on a long run, being good 50 laps into a run matters more than necessarily having elite speed in a qualifying run. He doesn't need to be fast in qualifying. He needs to be fast lap 30 into this race, and I think he's a guy that can do it. So I really do like him. If he finishes 25th, if you told me he finishes 25th right now, I would take it. Like, I would take it at this moment because I can do whatever the hell I wanted with the rest of my lineup. So, yeah, Justin Haley.
Yeah, I agree. He's been super, super impressive, right? I think he can get us what you need. I will say, his overall results have not been great at Richmond the last 4 years, but for some reason I feel like he's been good at high tire wear tracks. I don't know. I feel like he's kind of showed up when we've had tire wear, but maybe not. So let's round it out here. Your core four.
You're thinking that because he finished 8th at Darlington, probably. Yeah. And he does have some good results on higher tire wear tracks. Yes, I
just expected to see him have done some good at Richmond. And I just looked at
so he finished 3rd at Darlington, 8th in Darlington in back-to-back years. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some strategy involved with that, I'm sure, but that's to hold those finishes is really good. Colleague was dog shit last year. I don't really fault him for those results. They just weren't really good overall. And so I don't put a lot on him, but 21st in 2022 with them here is a good result. And this is Colleague's worst track. They were awful with the next gen car with both him and Allmendinger. They just weren't good. So I'm really not going to pin that on him. And so I'm going to kind of trust him to hopefully do a little bit better than what we've seen.
Absolutely. So let's round it out. Your core 410 for the Easter Eve Richmond race starting at 7 p.m. Eastern is going to be Dirty Denny, Bekaz, Carson Hosefar, Chase Busher, Briscoe, one of those guys. Your poor 4 guys we're not playing. Took some chances here, guys. I do think you're going to get some leverage away from the field on Chris Busher, Red Dog. And Tyler Reddick, both those guys, I think, are going to see some ownership. You also got Noah Gragson and Todd Gilliland as guys to avoid in the race. And then 4 more guys you can find some pivot to for some ownership. Less ownership would be Alex Bowman, AD3, Martin Truex Jr. I think he's going to have some ownership. And then Justin Haley. Right? Yeah, that's the guy you're going to have to go to for your punt. So we do have a giveaway to give away. Larkin is giving away some money, some entries.
Straight cash, homie.
Into the big dance, the big show, the big GPP for tonight's Easter Eve's race. So 2 of them winners, and I have the winners. So let's go ahead and do an announcement here. We do want to give a shout out to Soda Kid because he did win last time we did this, and he paid it forward and said, just give it away on your next time. So that's why we're giving away those entries tonight. We have the first winner is at Indy Hoosier, Indy Hoosier with a Z. So if you're listening with an S, not you, definitely the one with a Z. And then the other winner is going to be at Rhino Mite _1. So congratulations, guys.
Another Ryan. Yes. Another Ryan.
Another Ryan. I hope you guys
go us.
Turn it into some money.
Yeah, real quick. So Soda Kid after Daytona, so he actually won the Daytona giveaway. And he was really, really nice when I reached out. He was like, hey, just pay it forward, give it to some other guys in the future. So I kind of been saving it. I've been waiting. So decided to give out a couple this week. So I appreciate him doing that. And appreciate everyone for watching and everything. Please subscribe to the channel. We're so close. Like 500 is our next goal. And so it's really important. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. But thank you to him for allowing me to give that back out to people. And I'll reach out to those guys probably in the morning when I have more of a mental state that I can properly think, because I might give it to some other random people on accident. But hopefully that they can take that $15 and win like 50 grand tomorrow or something. That would be fantastic.
I will say Daily Fan Racing is very lucky that that we have a night race tomorrow, because I don't think a breakdown will be getting written this evening on the website.
The breakdown's 95% done. I did that shit long before I started drinking. Okay. I don't mess around when it comes to content. So this podcast,
I just think you do it in the morning. I didn't think you would do it drunk.
No. I do not let my people down. Projections were done at 4:30. I made sure before I did this that I was sober and rational when I did my work. Okay. I do not take liberties, but
the R word.
Ryan, it's the best R word. All right. Wrap this thing up. We said we're going to be under an hour because we needed
rain.
What?
It's gonna rain tomorrow. And
no,
on us.
No.
It's okay.
If one person asks me,
35%.
Okay.
Don't start doomsday forecasting us already. Andrew.
If one person asks me if they should build for a rain shortened race, I'm gonna smack them. But if that's the case, then play Bell. No, I appreciate it. Let's wrap this up. We're trying to get under an hour to help our viewers numbers, but hopefully the extra day will help. I know we were wanting to. They're not really rain tires. They're like damp tires. Like, there's a little water, put them on. I want them to run in real rain. But anyways, wrap it up, Jason.
You got to wrap it up. Let's pick a winner. We got to pick a winner. We haven't done that yet. Let's pick a winner. Who's going to win the race? Ryan Larkin. Please tell me who's going to win the race. I need to know.
Martin Truex Jr.
All right, Martin.
MTJ. Truex. I didn't realize he was going to be the favorite, but he's the favorite. So let's eat that chalk, bitches.
I guess they were right. I guess they were right.
Dude, like he's so freaking good here. I'm just waiting. He hasn't been good the last 2 years. Like he hasn't been dominant, but he's still got the third best average finish over the last 6 races at 5.8. Like even in his bad races, he performs well, and the upside is ungodly. So I want to chase it. I think he's going to be a contender.
You don't have to convince me.
You just need James Small not to ruin it. You just need good pit strategy. As long as strategy is on point, I think he's a guy to beat.
Yeah, and Larkin already said it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We've already and thank you, so much for sharing it, listening weekly. If you have not subscribed, please do it. You mentioned it. We're trying to push to 500. You guys have already drove us. I think we started the season at 230, and we were up over that 230, 240 mark. So really happy you guys sharing it out there. Please continue to do so. Subscribe, follow myself on Twitter at DFS NASCAR, just in case you guys want to see pictures of my garden or my latest disc golf score. I don't know. I'm not really putting out anything productive anymore. Larkin, show the people though. I will say, I finally started. This is not a promo. Larkin doesn't pay me, but I finally started reading some of Larkin's breakdowns the last few slates. and he has put me on some guys I probably wouldn't have played, and I'm starting to see a little bit better results. So, like, yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't think you were going to be on Austin Green last week without me.
I would not have been on Austin Green without you. I can guarantee that I would not have played Austin Green. It would have been the difference maker had it held. So
yeah, and so pat myself on the back.
This is where you promote your site.
Yeah, I mean, so I've said this from day one. I truly believe I'm the best at producing NASCAR DFS content. I truly do. And today was that, one of those affirmation days where we win everything and everything looks great. So I'm going to be cocky and arrogant and say I'm the best. But I truly believe what we deliver, and hopefully Jason, who's just now getting to see kind of what I've been producing, sees that and can help, deliver the message better, because I suck at self-promotion. But I think we find some really good key plays to be different, to, in cups a lot more challenging for sure. But to
be honest, man, you would have probably smashed the last 2 weeks in cup if you'd played Chris Buescher. You had everything else right.
I hate it. But we're doing really, really, really well. I put a ton of work into it, and I tried to make it as simple for you to follow. Like I don't try to just throw a shit ton of numbers at you that you don't understand or don't really matter. I try to put the best content out there. So hopefully you'll check us out. Hopefully today's results help show you that, hey, we do deliver winners. This isn't new. This is kind of what we do. But I appreciate everyone that subs to us. I appreciate everyone that subscribes to this channel. Please, if you haven't already, like the video and all that. At the end of the day, my biggest thing is just to build a community with people I like, and we've done a really good job with that. So for the people that are with us, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Thank you for checking out the video, and best of luck on this race.
I think they could buy weekend passes too, right? And you sell weekend passes. They just want to try it out, check it out for the weekend. Yeah, a race. I know he's already gave his thoughts and everything, but a race like Richmond is a good opportunity to do that because low variance.
Yeah, we have, and it's not like this is me and you going back and forth having some fun, but I wrote 3,500 words on the Xfinity race in an hour. Like I gave a full write up on that slate. I give a full write up on every slate. Projections, podcasts, rankings, the whole gambit. So there's one race left this weekend. If you want to try us out for the weekend, please do that. If not, do monthly. Like there's a bunch of racing, F1 to come. Like there's so much coming up. So try us out, and if not, then be here with us on the YouTube. I know paying isn't everyone's thing, but I truly believe long term it's going to result in more money for you. So hopefully you will.
Thanks for hanging around, everyone. An hour and 16 minutes, and we will be back next weekend, right? We're going to be back again for Martinsville.
Oh, are we? Shit.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. It was on the schedule. I'm not going to go back on the word just because I added an extra show. So you guys got 17 this year instead of 16. But yeah, we'll be talking Martinsville, talking 500 laps next week. A lot of dominators against probably a lot of the same guys. So yeah, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye.